There's a movement brewing, and that movement is the MeTotal lifestyle.
It centers around you keeping your sense of self intact and in gaining clarity of purpose as you age. I'm Carrie.
I'm Joe.
I'm JM.
And we're on a mission to show you how to enjoy friends, fellowship, and life without substance dependence.
It's time to discover how you can begin living a MeTotal lifestyle.
Right here on the FUZZEE'ish podcast. Let's go.
On this episode of the FUZZEE'ish podcast, me and JM catch up. Hey, JM, we haven't seen each other in a while. We find out about my spring break with my kids. We're going to get ready to hear a little bit more about the trip that he's taken to Bougie Paradise with his family in the next couple of hours. We get into what's going on in our professional lives, and we also get into the recounting all of our fond memories of guests past over these first 29, 30 episodes. So JM, what really stands out about this episode, and why should somebody stay tuned for the entire thing?
Yeah, I think it was a great conversation, Joe. It's good to catch up. I think it was great reflection. I think it was some honest communication about these last 30 episodes and what's gotten us to this point, and also what we're so excited about for the future. And that, ultimately the level of responsibility we feel specific to this message and really driving this mission forward is something that we don't take lightly, and want to ensure that we bring the passion and conviction on a show to show basis, both around the comms, the interviews, as well as even the promotion of the various aspects of content that we want to bring on a weekly basis to you as our audience. So lots of conversation around that, lots of excitement for the future, and just really looking forward to continue to hone around how best to present MeTotal to a world that clearly I think is not just resonating, but listening, and lots of other people are in need of. So lots to look forward to.
Would you say that that's a wrap on season one? Are we announcing to the folks right now that we're going to take a quick hiatus and come back bigger and better in a couple months?
Yeah, that's a wrap for season one. We'll chapter one, version one, brand one, and whether it's a couple months or even less, we'll be back before you know it with a renewed amount of, as I said, focus, commitment, and conviction to this story and this space that we feel so passionate about, and look forward to continuing the narrative forward.
All right. Well, that's a wrap on season one. When you see us next time, we might have different backgrounds. I might let you know what's behind door 1, 2, or 3. Who knows? JM might not be in the fishbowl when you see him next time, but we'll still be the same guys with the same hardcore message about really focusing in on your personal wellness and learning
that
to
best self,
love yourself and live your best self outside of alcohol. And we thank you so much for your attention and your tune in, and we will see you around very shortly. Signing off.
All right.
Sayonara. Welcome back to the FUZZEE'ish podcast, the Kind of Sober Show. I'm your host, Joe Quattrone, and with me, as always, is my boy, JM. JM, how you doing today? We're doing a bro sesh right now, so it's just going to be me and you, no guests. But we haven't even had a chance to catch up the past couple weeks. I feel kind of strange that we're usually on the phone a lot more often. What's been going on in you and the family's life? How are things going?
Yeah, man. busy in my world. Work has been crazy. Lots of different customer and people related stuff that I've been working through, and it's been sort of feeling all encompassing to some degree. Just got back from Shop Talk, the big retail commerce show out in Las Vegas. It always kind of feels like deja vu. The same people, the same venue, the same software, the same clients, but it was a good time out there. Got to see some folks I've known for a really long time. Really
how's the Sphere looking in Vegas? I haven't been back to Vegas since the Sphere opened up. Is that looking like very prominent on the Strip?
Yeah, I mean, I was out at the Mandalay Bay. So when you land, you can see the Sphere. You can definitely see the Sphere sort of out there. it's far enough away that it's kind of outside of like the general strip as it may. But yeah, dude, it's super cool. The way that it basically can be a display advertisement as well as like this immersive spherical item in the sort of grander scene of the strip is pretty cool. I've had a bunch of people that have gone there, and apparently it's like out of this world. For concerts. Yeah, so some folks that I was with actually went and saw the sort of immersive nature movie that they play every hour or so. Said it was super cool. I think I want to, for my first time, I want to see some sort of artist. It's too bad I missed you too. I think that would have been super cool. But yeah, maybe apparently it's pretty awesome.
Maybe one day we can get Fuzzy Water into that venue as something that you can partake in while you're looking at cool stuff.
Yeah, man, for sure. And that, that was obviously that whole scene in Vegas is big. Nevada's obviously a pretty predominant rec legal state now. So there's a lot of different sort of outlets, a lot of people talking about cannabis generally while I was there as well, which was interesting. So yeah, man, just super busy, trying to stay healthy, trying to continue to eat the right things and move my body 20 minutes a day. We're actually going on vacation tomorrow for spring break. No, you already did that, but looking forward to some R&R with the family as well. It's been a while since we got out of. No, we're actually going. Yeah, so we're going down to the Caribbean to a place that some people recommended to us that has a great sort of water pool experience for the kids club, a little bit of golf. So should be pretty awesome. Yeah.
My spring break was not that relaxing. We loaded up the Denali and headed out to northeastern North Carolina and hung out with Jenny Quattrone, or Jenny Oliveria, I should say, and the Sup Dogs crew. We had 8 kids and 6 adults in Jenny's house, which was pretty funny because actually Jimmy Donaldson, Mr. B, still lives in Greenville from what tells me. And their house is bigger than his house, so that's their kind of claim to fame. He still lives.
Well, the house that he lives in, he owns like the whole neighborhood, I think, right? Like he has like
something like that. Yeah, he's also got like a massive like creator studio there or whatever. But sadly, we didn't run into Jimmy, but we did go to Sup Dogs twice, and that's more calories than I care to consume in an entire month. So we got our fix for the year there for sure, but. It was good. It was the first time my parents had all of their grandkids in the same place at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
So Big Joe and Barbara were in town, too. They
live there.
So they do? Okay.
BQ, they moved down to Greenville like 5 years ago to retire to, obviously Greenville doesn't cost as much as Reston. So they moved down to Greenville, because it's close to Jenny and her kids and whatnot, and get into the fold. I didn't take too much of offense because at the time I was living in New York City and I realized that it's pretty tough in Manhattan. So now,
I guess I didn't realize that they had moved down there. That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons it's hard for me to get back to Nova because I have Kateri there, and I have gone to see her once or twice, but. When I load up the family, it's every time it's going to cost like $2,000, $3,000. So we go out to Virginia, you got to make it count, So that's why this past time I took solo trip, me with 2 kids, and we went to the Commanders game. That was a nice little.
Yeah, I remember that. That was the Commanders. Yeah. A lot of good news in that world these days too. So how was did you check out the new venue, their new cocktail place?
It's really cool. I mean, they're just, Jenny and Brett, they just keep hitting like, gap doubles all the time, working on that business because they've got their successful restaurants. They'll probably move into Raleigh one of these days as well. And they're beloved, that's kind of the biggest college thing down there. But then they've also got, some rental properties that they own from just a housing perspective. They own a couple warehouses. Cool. And the warehouse thing was what gave them the idea to create the distillery, and then the distillery gave them the idea to create the brand. And now they're actually, they were the number 1 buyer of vodka in the state of North Carolina. Now they just buy it from themselves. So
yeah, it's crazy.
It's a nice little racket if you can come across it. So,
yeah, it's awesome.
Go create a successful brand that purchases a ton of alcohol and then buy it from yourself.
Right.
So
Yeah. That's awesome.
I don't really condone the consumption of alcohol, but well, it's not that I don't condone it, but I don't partake in it myself. But they're doing it the right way. The way they make it is super clean. It's mega distilled. It's got no real impurities in it, and even the way they mix it in with other stuff, it's all organic, all like good natural products, no fake sugars and artificial stuff. So I'm happy for them.
Well, the interesting thing is this show is all about being our best selves. And clearly those folks have been living a great life and being their best selves for some time and have created a community and are catering to a community through the various things that they do and all the philanthropic stuff that they do specific to the charitable causes and obviously the university, the ECU, that's all commendable. So whether it's what we partake in or not, all good. And obviously always want to throw some shine on those folks, not just because they're your blood relatives, but because they're good humans as well. Right.
Yeah, for sure. I can't help but think one of these days the state of North Carolina will go the same way as some of these other states, and we'll be doing some business with them down the road. So Brett is just one of those humans where you meet him. I mean, I've known him now for 20 years, but like you meet him and you instantly like him and you want success for him. So I'm happy for him. And
do you know how long I've known that dude? Do you know this? Do you know that I've known him longer than you? Yeah.
Yeah, he was JMU.
Yeah, so he was my age, or he is my age. He's same grade at JMU, 03, same year.
Yeah, Jenny robbed the
kid. He went to Lake Braddock High School. He was a 99 grad, just like I was, South Lake's 99. And here's where it gets really interesting. He played for Burke Select basketball, starting at about the age of I think 8 or 9 years old. So we're talking 33, 34 years ago. Brett Oliverio, his dad was the coach.
His dad played basketball in Indiana. Did you know that?
Yeah. So his dad was his coach for all those years. And I played for the Reston Seahawks, which then obviously becomes the South Lake Seahawks with a bunch of heads that you would recognize name-wise. And we lined it up against Brett from 8 or 9 years old through senior year of high school in basketball, right? So that was, 7, 8, 9 years of hoops. And then we went to JMU together and had known each other since we were 8 or 9.
I still probably knew you around the same amount of time because you were in Stratton Woods for that.
Yeah, you and I have known each other maybe longer, but I'm saying I've known him longer than
you've known him longer than I've known.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, and then when he came,
20.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just, it's funny when you start to think about just how intertwined the world is and relationships and all of those things. And I think that's the thing that I've really learned as part of this process and having gone through these, shows with you over these last several months and all the different conversations and all the different backgrounds of people and all the different relationships that folks have with alcohol or all the different ways that people are trying to live their best selves through better relationships with alcohol, that we're really onto something, right? So the interesting thing is it's gone so far outside of the sphere of what we intended, being as we talked about a few different times, kind of a platform for some of the more commercial things that we're thinking about on our side, specific to Fuzzy and Fuzzy Water, but also just, supporting what is becoming a much different industry specific to cannabis and other ways, sort of more natural ways to relieve stress, to, drive less anxiety, to help suicide awareness, to help people from committing suicide, and on and on and on. And I think it's gotten just so much bigger than what we intended or what we even thought it was going to be. And so, what has been, sort of to tie this back to what we wanted to really get into today, MeTotal is a big deal, right? All of a sudden we're starting to hear from so many people about the impact that even just that thinking or that specific thought sort of string of being a better person, living a better life with alcohol, but ultimately just living our best lives and being the best version of ourselves, how there's really not a great mantra for that. And there's really still not a great theme. And we've done a poor job really expressing that or putting that out in front of this show. And I think, that's the thing you and I have been talking a lot about, how we improve the message, how we can help people even more than we have been by, looking at the way that we both talk about, but also market or push the content that we create as part of this podcast.
Yeah. So I think, being as transparent as possible for the audience, we are getting ready to kind of take a break of producing and putting out podcast episodes, mainly due to what JM is saying, but also to kind of get some of our lives in order, because we're at a busy season of life in general. Obviously, it's why our third co-host is not here today. We've just got a million things going on. We're trying to launch several businesses, and although we've done a pretty fairly good job of getting together regularly and hosting these episodes and booking guests, we don't want to do it in vain necessarily, and we do feel like, in the order of magnitude, or the pecking order, you should say, when it comes to communicating out what's on our heart and minds as it pertains to this subject matter, we feel like coming back stronger with a more refined MeTotal message is better than, coming in with a convoluted fuzzy message, when fuzzy is the commercial enterprise for us. It's just not really as maybe we once intended it to be. It's not as relevant for this podcast as the broader kind of movement that we're trying to wrap our heads around and wrap the words around, if you will. So, I think we've learned a ton. I think we have a ton of insight. I feel like what we're doing and what we're saying is really scratching the surface of a much larger thing out there. And I see it every day. I see it just in general interactions, casual conversations, serious conversations. There just seems to be a lack of interest in alcohol, probably more so than there ever has been in my entire life. And, I think people are they're trying to look out for themselves and trying to put themselves in better positions to succeed as human beings, which is something that I'm excited about watching and participating in the future. So it's my hope that we come back with a renewed sense of purpose and better words to describe what we're trying to do here. But I still feel like MeTotal is a great encapsulation, and we just have to figure out a way to make it more consistent, make it more loud and proud, if you will.
Yeah, I know. I think that all that is very true. And I would just add, this is an enormous responsibility, right? This is such a huge and heavy topic that so many people are challenged with on a daily basis, or so many people are on different levels or variations of journey specific to changing their relationship with anything that is obviously impacting their ability to do their best or be their best. And obviously alcohol is sort of the center theme for us. I don't feel comfortable continuing to get on this microphone and talking with you guys, or even talking with our guests, without having the right level of passion and commitment to that story. Right. And so as soon as you and I had the conversation over the last kind of 2 weeks about the fact that we weren't putting enough emphasis into the things that we had put emphasis around, but also the thinking that we needed to put into both our message as well as the sort of duty by which we were bringing these folks on to our channel. It just makes sense to take a step back and look at, how can we do that better? How can we ensure that we're carving out the right amount of time? How can we make sure that we're putting enough passion and emphasis around something that we feel so passionately and emphasized around, right? And so it's kind of like a perfect time to bookend, think about the brand, think about the way we talk about it, think about really putting MeTotal center stage, potentially putting some creative and some illustration around MeTotal to start to actually reflect that from a more visual perspective versus just words. And, I think at least I just feel so confident about the message generally, and the fact that MeTotal really captures what it is that we're trying to move forward, and just needs that level of investment, both from a time, energy, and passion perspective, in order to really be delivering for our audience, but also this space in the way that all of us can feel good and sort of proud about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and for the audience members out there, I'd encourage all of you guys, if you know us and you know us on social media, you know that we're accessible. You can reach out to us in the DMs. You can email us if you have our email addresses. Whatever you need to do, I encourage you to reach out to us, give us your input, give us your insight, help us come back with a vengeance here. But I still hold firm in the vision for this is right. So the world is moving beyond alcohol in a really meaningful way in the near future. And there's just never been a time in human history where I can recall where you had anything else other than a 12-step program to help you get past that. And I think I'm not necessarily saying that we need to step into that void in a very massive commercial capacity, but I think the world deserves a bunch of different options when it comes to showing them the way forward in a more healthy way that's more positive. And I think there's room in the world for a movement like MeTotal. So any insights you have, we're all ears. Help us come back even better than we are now.
Yep. No, for sure. And if nothing else, it's cool to have scenarios and situations that just remind us of the journeys that each of us are on too. And just this past weekend, there's a pop-up store at the Union Market in DC that's a non-alcoholic beverage, basically wine shop, has fake beer and fake liquors and all these different fake wines and tastings. And so my oldest son, Jack, runs over and says, Dad, there's a fake beer store over here. You got to check it out. And I tell you what, man, just to see in his face the enthusiasm and excitement of supporting my desire and my journey of being a non-drinker, like that's what it's all about, right? Like just the fact that it's having an impact on him is enough to say for me that this is the right decision, and that I'm have created at least the best model that I can, given the circumstances. And I'm not there yet. I definitely don't think I'm living the best version of myself yet, but if I keep moving my body on a daily basis and I can keep staying away from that alcohol, at least I think I'm as close to it as I've ever been. And I believe very much that this platform will continue to be a big part of my life. And certainly, Joe, our relationship as we go forward as well.
Cool. So we've put out 28, 29 episodes now, which is more than 99.7 or 99.9% of people that attempt to create podcasts. Which people or which moments stand out to you the most over these past 30 or so episodes to call people's attention to? If somebody's casually watching right now, and this may be the first time they ever tuned in, what should they go back into the archives and pull out? What were some of your favorite podcasts and favorite moments on the pod?
Yeah, so we had Dave on, who had worked for Tony Robbins, and he talked about he was a world-renowned fire walker, and he had put on these big fire walking shows. I'd never heard of that. And so just even the education of what
I'm going to go do that in like 2 weeks.
Okay, nice.
I'm in California with Dave Albin doing a fire walk for vets out there in California. So
nice. Yeah. So that was, one where, especially because of just how passionate and how much conviction he had for mental wellness of veterans, and the fact that what he's doing, a big part of it is to support that crew, which is obviously something that hits really close to home for me personally. That's certainly one that stands out. We learned all about hypnosis. I'd always thought of hypnosis as like a, sort of a clock, go to sleep, do stupid stuff, that sort of things. And I think, just the learning around the fact that has such an enormous impact on mental wellness and anxiety and all sorts of other aspects was really super interesting. I loved all the
listeners out there real quick before we move on. If anybody wants to get in contact, that's Sarah Donner at Siva Wellness out in New York City. She can actually hypnotize you via Zoom. So reach out to Sarah. She's great people. Yeah.
So Sarah was a beast. I loved all of the themes around the various aspects of, psychedelic drugs, right? Whether it's cannabis or any of the other more sort of serious ceremonies of psychedelics, like talking to Mike Holdenbrook about all of those types of topics, I think is a really interesting world that we just kind of glanced over, but is going to be an enormous aspect of the just mental wellness of this planet, but also the continued sort of the continued shift of focus away from alcohol being the only thing to sort of take the edge off, just as more and more data from a health perspective is shown that that's not necessarily the best thing. For me, like that really frightening. That's not something I don't think I personally am that interested in doing, but just listening to the stories of people that truly have had their life change around that has been, really awesome. And then the last one we just recently did, or I did solo with Jack Burke. It was awesome to talk to somebody who truly said our show had a meaningful and a very real impact on his own decisioning. Yeah. Right. So he was 6 months, no beers. And, he had some things happen on his side from a personal perspective that sort of helped him to see that. But he basically said, your guys' message and leaning into the stuff that you were talking about was so helpful and so supportive of my decision and helped to get me over the hump. And I've enjoyed every week listening to the various stories, and it's helped me to stay focused or steadfast in my decisioning to move away from alcohol and live the best version of myself. And it was cool to just hear that, right? And I think that there were plenty of times of people that weren't on the show that I heard the same thing, and that's why I'm as excited as I am to take this time to really sort of get our ducks in a row, re-emphasize the focus where things need to be. Potentially even rebrand the way we think about the show, put some visualization around it, and come back bigger and better than we were even for these first 30 or so episodes.
Yeah, I got the same vibes from my network as well. Hank Leber actually was my friend from grad school, so it was interesting the way we rekindled. He reached out to me like, "Hey, I listened to this episode of FUZZEE'ish like last week. It was awesome. I loved what you were talking about, this and that," which spawned a separate conversation where I started drilling in on what he's did, because I didn't know him as somebody that given up alcohol, and it turns out he hasn't really. He just gave it up for like 2 months, is kind of experimenting around. And I think that's the other thing that I want to make sure that we wrap into our tent, is that we're accepting of all people, even if you're still not sure whether or not you want to quit drinking alcohol. Right. We're not anti-alcohol necessarily as a group, as a pod. I mean, some of us have harder feelings towards it than others, but it's really just about supporting people, supporting your friends, supporting strangers, supporting everybody, try to live the best life that they can. And he was able to deliver some pretty valuable insights to the creators and Gen Z and how younger folks are even thinking about alcohol these days. So it's beyond just people in our demographic. Like it's stretching down to people that are much, much younger than us. And that gives me a lot of hope for humanity, given that both of us are people with exceptionally young children right now.
Yeah, so. I mean, I think you just summed it up really well, right? Like the Hank example is a great one. He wasn't even sure he needed to. Now he has. Now he's like, man, I'm living the best version of myself. And then you have people like Willie McKenzie, who obviously had a much different, like super heavyweight addiction problem way past booze, that obviously had to go to like a really significant rehab. And I think the interesting thing is it all sums back to what we've talked about this whole time. It's not about 1 or 0, right? It's not about not drinking at all. It's about how can we improve our relationship with the bottle, right? So for some people, that's 1 less drink a day. For others, maybe that's 1 less day a week that they're having a drink. And then, obviously the other side of that is not drinking at all. And I think that there's so many different versions of that. Everybody, and we've learned this really, tightly coupled to a lot of the conversations that we've had, everybody has a different journey. Everybody gets there a different way. Everybody has a different vehicle, right? Whether it's rehab or AA or just talking about it in a community like this, there's no right answer, because everybody's story, everybody's journey is a little bit different. And so if we can continue to create a space where people feel comfortable to listen and share and understand that it's not 1 or 0, it really is what helps you as a human and as yourself to really start to strive to be the best version of yourself by finding a better relationship with whatever it is that that you're having challenge with, and in our case, starting with alcohol, then we really are driving this MeTotal story forward in the way that we want to. And I'm super confident that that will continue to be the case, and will only come back bigger and better in this next iteration after a short little pause here.
Great. Well, on behalf of myself, JM, and Carrie, we do appreciate all of your attention and tuning in, and the several hours of conversations you've sat in on, eavesdropped in on, and listened to. All of the Facebook messages, Instagram DMs, any words of encouragement we've gotten from people in our own personal lives that are tuned into this podcast. You don't have to do that. So we're exceptionally grateful. And you'll be seeing from us and hearing from us in the next couple months, and we'll be sure to alert you when we get close to that date. Signing off for now, I'm Joe Quattrone, and this is JM, and we are the FUZZEE'ish podcast.
Much love. See you.